What happens when a mighty king, consumed with pride and jealousy, builds a magnificent cathedral to rival the ancient house of Allah, gathers the largest army Arabia has ever witnessed, and in the year 570 marches across the burning Arabian desert with war elephants, swearing to destroy the Kaaba itself, reducing the sacred house to dust and wiping it from the face of the earth? This is the astonishing, divinely recorded story behind Surah Al-Fil, chapter 105 of the Holy Qur'an, also known as the elephant. A single act of arrogant defiance met with a miracle so swift and absolute that it scattered an entire invading force like chaff before the wind, leaving behind only the silent testimony of Allah's unchallengeable power and His fierce love for what is His. This is no legend woven by time or the tongues of men. It is forever preserved in the words of the Holy Qur'an, a living proof of the Lord's jealous guardianship over His sacred house, and a solemn warning to every soul in every era who dares to plot against what Allah has sanctified. The year 570 would forever be known as the Year of the Elephant. The vast, sun-scorched expanse of the Arabian Peninsula trembled beneath the gathering shadow of an unprecedented threat. Abraha al-Ashram, a powerful Christian Abyssinian king ruling over Yemen in the name of the Aksumite Empire, had allowed envy and the hunger for dominance to take deep root in his heart. He constructed a cathedral of breathtaking splendor in Sana'a called Al-Khalis, lavishly adorned with gold and silver, glittering jewels, intricate mosaics, marble columns that caught the light like frozen rivers, intending it to become the new spiritual heart of Arabia, that the caravans might turn southward, that the wealth might pour into Yemen instead of Mecca, that His church might eclipse the Kaaba in glory. Pilgrims had long journeyed across deserts and valleys to Mecca, circling the Kaaba in humble devotion, honoring the ancient sanctuary built by prophets Ibrahim and Ismail. Peace be upon them both, the house established for pure Tawheed, free from idols, a beacon calling humanity back to its Creator. But when the tribes continued their pilgrimages to the house of Allah, when His cathedral stood nearly empty of true worshippers, Abraha sought a pretext to unleash his fury. Some accounts relate that certain Quraysh men, or perhaps envious rivals, secretly defiled his grand sanctuary, smearing its walls with filth in the darkness of night. The insult ignited Abraha's wrath like dry tinder under the desert sun. He vowed vengeance, swearing that he would march to Mecca, tear down the Kaaba stone by stone, and erase its sanctity from the face of the earth forever. He assembled an army the likes of which Central Arabia had never seen, tens of thousands of soldiers, cavalry swift as the wind, infantry armored and resolute, and most terrifying of all, war elephants, massive, towering, clad in iron and cloth of war, a living symbol of unbreakable might and imperial dominance. At the head marched Mahmud, the lead elephant, enormous, unstoppable, a mountain of muscle and fury trained for battle. Abraha's purpose was unmistakable: to raze the Kaaba to rubble, to prove that no ancient shrine, no tribal reverence, no divine claim could stand against his power and ambition. As the vast host advanced, raising clouds of dust that darkened the horizon like storm omens, the people of Mecca watched in mounting dread. The Quraysh, custodians of the sacred house, possessed no force capable of matching this juggernaut. No fortifications thick enough, no spears sharp enough, no courage fierce enough to halt elephants armored for destruction. Abdul Muttalib, the noble grandfather of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, gathered the leaders of Quraysh in the shadow of the Kaaba. He spoke with calm certainty. Do not meet them in open battle, for the Kaaba has its own Lord, and he alone is its defender. When Abraha's scouts seized the camels of Abdul Muttalib, he did not protest with arms, but went before the invader and calmly reclaimed only what belonged to him, declaring with unshakable faith, "I am but the owner of these camels, but the Kaaba has its Lord who will protect it." Then, in the quiet of night, Abdul Muttalib stood at the door of the Kaaba, grasping its honored ring, raising his hands to the heavens, and poured out his heart in supplication to the Lord of the house. "Safeguard your sanctuary, defend what is yours alone." The army drew ever nearer, encamping at Muzdalifah, then pressing forward until the great elephant Mahmud stood at the very threshold of the Haram. They turned the beast toward the Kaaba, urging it to charge, to trample, to shatter the sacred structure. But Mahmud, despite every lash, every prod, every hook driven into his flesh, refused again and again. He knelt, immovable, facing Mecca in silent submission, refusing to advance a single step. They twisted him eastward, westward, northward, and he marched obediently in those directions. Yet whenever they aimed him toward the Kaaba, he knelt again, rooted to the earth, as though invisible chains bound him by the command of a higher power. Abraha's fury boiled over. He ordered the assault to proceed regardless, soldiers shouting, spears raised, elephants prodded forward once more. Then, in mercy and might, beyond all human comprehension, the command of Allah descended. The sky above the Haram suddenly grew dark, not with clouds, but with movement. From every direction, flocks of birds, known as ababil, appeared as if summoned from the unseen, swarming in perfect disciplined formations, their wings beating like distant thunder, darkening the heavens like a living storm of divine retribution. These were no ordinary desert birds, no mere ravens or vultures drawn by carrion. They were soldiers of the Lord of the worlds, small yet unstoppable, each one carrying in its beak and between its talons stones of baked clay, sigil, hardened in the fires of divine decree, petrified, marked with the name of their target, glowing faintly with an otherworldly heat. They circled once, twice, high above the army, then, as one, they dove. Wave after wave they came, relentless, unerring, stone after stone, released with precision no archer could match. The air filled with the rush of wings, the whistle of falling sigil, the sickening thud of impact. Each stone struck like a burning missile from the sky, piercing iron helmets as if they were parchment, searing through armor, shattering bone, burrowing deep into flesh, inflicting wounds that festered instantly, spreading agony and black corruption through the body in moments. Soldiers screamed, clutched at their faces, collapsed in twisted heaps, blood mixing with the desert sand. The elephants, those towering symbols of unbreakable might, bellowed in terror, reared, trampled their own ranks in blind panic, then fell one by one, massive bodies crashing to the ground like felled mountains, dust rising in clouds around them. The once unstoppable force dissolved into utter chaos, men fleeing in every direction, tripping over corpses, crying out to their gods, only to be pursued by the unyielding birds, stone after stone, finding its mark, until the valley echoed with nothing but the flapping of wings and the groans of the dying. By the morning light, the mighty army was no more. Corpses lay strewn across the valley like devoured stubble, like straw eaten by cattle, like chaff trampled underfoot. The proud host reduced to silent, broken remnants under the merciless sun. Abraha himself, struck again and again, staggered back toward Yemen, his body already decaying piece by piece, flesh sloughing away, until he perished in torment, a living testament to the fate of those who challenge Allah. The Qur'an captures this divine decree with unmatched power and precision.
ألم تر كيف فعل ربك بأصحاب الفيل ألم يجعل كيدهم في تضليل وأرسل عليهم طيرا أبابيل ترميهم بحجارة من سجيل فجعلهم كعصف مأكول.
In these 5 concise verses, Allah proclaims the complete futility of every plot against His house, the absolute sovereignty of His will, and the certainty of His protection. This miracle unfolded mere weeks or months before the blessed birth of the seal of the prophets, Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, in the very year that heralded the dawn of mercy for all creation. The Quraysh, eyewitnesses to Allah's deliverance, saw their honor rise among the tribes. Word of the Kaaba's divine guardianship spread far and wide, and the path was prepared for the revelation that would soon follow. The ambition of Abraha vanished into dust, but the lesson echoes through time. Listen then to the deep truths this divine rescue imparts to every heart in every age. No power on earth, however vast its armies, however towering its elephants, however glittering its ambitions, can prevail for a single moment against the decree of Allah when He chooses to defend what is sacred to Him. Plans conceived in secret, forces assembled in pride, schemes designed to divert hearts from Tawheed, all crumble to nothing when the Sustainer wills otherwise. He can dispatch the smallest of His creatures, humble birds bearing clay stones, to humble the mightiest tyrants and scatter their hosts like dry leaves in the wind. The Kaaba endures, not because of its stones or its human guardians, but because Allah has sworn to preserve it as a beacon of pure monotheism until the day of judgment. Arrogance that seeks to rival the sacred, to destroy what Allah has honored, hastens its own ruin more surely and more swiftly than any earthly enemy ever could. The sanctity of the house of Allah, its role as a place of worship for all humanity, its call to Tawheed, these are guarded fiercely by the Lord, who needs neither ally nor army. The gate of true reliance upon Allah, Tawakkul in its purest form, stands wide open, even when the odds appear insurmountable, even when the enemy seems unstoppable. Turn to Him, entrust your affairs to His hands, before any calamity overtakes you while you place your confidence in your own strength or schemes. Every soul, at some point, encounters the arrogance of power, the delusion of control, the subtle pressure of believing we can outmaneuver or outlast the divine plan, and this surah serves as refuge for all who seek it. Are we in our daily lives quietly building our own cathedrals of status, wealth, or self-importance, hoping they will outshine the simple truth of submission to Allah? Are we in our hearts allowing envy or ambition to blind us to the sanctity of what Allah has made holy, while forgetting that He sees and protects what is His? Are we turning away from the Kaaba of our own souls, the place where Tawheed should dwell, replacing it with idols of ego and desire? Turn to Him today, right now, before any army of delusion or distraction marches against your faith. May Allah, in His infinite mercy, grant you and me, hearts that truly submit, eyes that truly see His signs, and the tawfiq, the enabling grace, to place full reliance on Him alone while there is still time. May He shield every heart from arrogance, from envy of the sacred, from every hidden plot against truth and guidance. May He grant us constancy in His remembrance, reliance upon His protection, and peace in knowing that no elephant, no army, no scheme can ever prevail against His will. Ameen.
If this reminder benefited you, do not let it stop with you. The Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, said, "Whoever guides to something good will have a reward similar to the one who does it." Subscribe to Islamic True Stories for Quranic reminders and authentic stories. Like this reminder so it reaches more hearts. Share it. Someone close to you may need it. May Allah accept it from us and place barakah in what was heard. Make it a protection for our hearts and our homes.